Hello and welcome to Allegedly Astrology. Each week we break down the astrology that happened during some of the biggest scandals and events in history.
Thanks so much to everyone for listening to our show. And if you want to support us, you can leave a 5-star review and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you listen on.
And if you do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and DM us a screenshot of your review, we'll make you a custom meme of your big three and send you a quick write-up about it.
We also have a very cool and exclusive Patreon. So if you want more awesome astrology content, join us at patreon.com/allegedlyastrology.
And make sure to follow us. We're everywhere. We're on Instagram at Allegedly Astrology and TikTok at Allegedly Astrology and Allegedly Astro on X. And you can visit our website, allegedlyastrology.com, to learn more about us and the show. Book a reading with Dana. Check out charts and transcripts for select episodes.
So with that, Dana, what are we talking about on today's episode?
Today we're talking about Diddy.
Yes.
Whoa.
It's been a doozy of a year for Diddy, but trigger warning for abuse. Sean, quote unquote, Diddy Combs is a rapper, producer, and record executive known for helping launch the careers of some of the biggest stars in hip hop and R&B. We're talking Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie, Mary J. Blige, Usher, and more. Today he's facing multiple civil lawsuits accusing him of things like sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and rape. And as of this recording, he has not been formally charged or accused by federal prosecutors of any crime. And he's obviously denied all of the allegations against him. So let's learn a little bit more about Diddy and his astrology.
So Diddy was born Sean Combs. He's been known as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and honestly, like a ton of other names. But for today, he is known as Diddy. He was born in Harlem. His mom was a model. His dad was in the Air Force and was honestly a little sketchy. But I mean, if we want to get specific, he was a known associate of a big drug dealer in New York and was killed when Diddy was 2 years old. So a tragic death. And then after this, he got his nickname Puff as a child because he would huff and puff when he was angry, which honestly is kind of cute. Like, you're
That's really cute.
Boy, call you Puff.
My goddaughter.
I can't wait to see what his rising is. I bet he's an Aries rising.
Well, good.
Oh, honestly?
We don't know. We don't know. Because he was born on November 4th, 1969, and we don't know at what time, but he was born in Harlem, New York. And he has a Scorpio Sun and a Virgo Moon, and this combination is exacting. It's definitely, yeah. So with Scorpio Sun, what do we know about them? They're calculated, clever, paranoid, patient, considerate and or aware, self-motivated, powerful, which is to say that they need to see themselves as powerful in order to make it through the pretty much guaranteed hard times of being a Scorpio Sun. And then a Virgo Moon, this is someone who's critical and understands the value and effort of maintenance. So continual work. It's an unrelenting personality, someone who's dry, able to put aside emotions and sort of focus on the end game, especially with that Scorpio Sun. Virgo Moons too, I mean, any moon can be pathological, but this combination, it's its own sort of pathology that sort of really... This combination, I feel like the pathology at its logical extreme can be seen if you look up the video of Diddy as the Joker on Halloween 2022. It's wild, and that's what I've really branded on the Scorpio Sun Virgo Moon duo. But he also has his Sun in Mercury in Scorpio opposite Saturn and Taurus, and so this is oppositional, defiant, contrarian, disagreeable, prepared, someone who has been told no and sort of really has to learn how to get around that no. It's an aspect of patience and opposition, which I know, like, it's an opposition. So, of course, it's an aspect of opposition. But in astrology, oppositions take on the nature of Saturn. So an opposition with Saturn is extra Saturnian, extra oppositional. So it's having to face powerful others in one's life and then therefore also lawsuits. And then also, especially with Saturn and Taurus, there's immense power and wealth. Also Scorpio Suns, and especially after the Saturn return, which has ended April 2001. And a noted other person who has Saturn in Taurus is Ronald Reagan. Someone else who I am afraid of. But he can't hurt me because he's long dead. And Diddy also has his moon with the South Node and Pluto. So this is just sort of an unpredictable demise. Whenever the moon is like one of the nodes, it's sort of an unpredictable future. And with the South Node and Pluto there's power taking you down. And then he also has Venus tightly conjunct Jupiter in Libra. So this is bringing his own sense of personal style. I don't really remember the early aughts, but maybe he was definitely a trendsetter. One of my favorite.
Remember Sean John?
Yes,
his fashion line?
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So he had his own fashion line.
I mean, I don't know if I would call that, haute couture, but it definitely was a personal style.
I don't think, it doesn't have to be avant-garde. It just, I always think a Jupiter in Libra has a nice sense of personal style and personal taste.
Oh, yeah. You said that like every time you see it.
It's really
It's
a Jupiter
true.
Libra. I've never seen someone with Jupiter Libra who doesn't have their own sense of style and taste. Also, this is wealth via relationships. Venus, of course, being money. Jupiter being the planet of expansion. And then, of
Could
course,
it be
Libra.
wealth via blackmail?
Sure.
I know. I would love to know what house it is because I feel like, having Venus and Jupiter conjunct in Libra is so chic. So I want to know where it is.
I know. Maybe we'll find out with this case for some reason.
Yeah, give us your birth time in the official court documents.
So, Diddy got his break in the music industry when he became an intern at Uptown Records in 1990. And then when he was at Howard University, he was known for being wild and throwing really good parties. And he brought that energy to his record labels. And he eventually started his own record company after he got fired from Uptown and called it Bad Boy Records. And, while he launched the careers of several successful artists that we named earlier, he also put out records on his own as a rapper and became really successful. And at one point, he even dated Jennifer Lopez, which I completely forgot about. But she broke up with him for cheating on her too much.
While there's a lot of shady shit in his past, we're going to focus on what's going on for him right now because there is plenty to talk about. We're going to fast forward a ton. That brings us to 2024, when federal agents with U.S. Homeland Security raided two of Diddy's houses in Los Angeles and my fair city, Miami, after a producer named Rodney, Lil Rod, Jones, who worked for Diddy between September 2022 and November 2023, claimed in a lawsuit that Diddy sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened him for more than a year. And we'll be looking at Diddy's synastry with Lil Rod on the Patreon. So become a patron so you could learn about that.
Yes. And the lawsuit also alleges that Diddy regularly hosted sex trafficking parties with underage women and illegal drugs, and implies that record label execs who looked the other way financially benefited from this.
Some of these parties were called freak-offs, and
what?
I just feel like you don't need, like, you know what it is.
This is very Epstein of the hip-hop rap music industry.
Freak Off is such a dumb name. It's such a discovered clothing-ass name. I don't know why.
Let's have a freak-off. When Diddy's homes in Miami and LA were raided, officers wore, they went pretty over the top. They wore protective gear and used really big weapons and command trucks. And they also handcuffed two of Diddy's sons and seized firearms and phones belonging to Diddy. This got a ton of media attention. So what was going on when the home was raided? Because it was everywhere.
Well, this was on March 25th, 2024 in Miami and Los Angeles. And this was on the very day of a lunar eclipse. So lunar eclipse in Libra, a lunar eclipse in Libra in general, it's a downfall of networks taking other networks down, revealing seedy relationships, revealing manipulation in relationships, justice, and lawsuits. Of course, Libra being the scales of justice. And this one was ruled by Venus in Pisces, which is exalted. So it's sort of like the victims getting their victory. And Venus was conjunct Saturn. So this is punishment for crimes against women. Venus being, of course, the planet of women, Saturn being the planet of punishment. And this was a South Node eclipse, so it's about falling from grace, especially in Libra, where you're sort of like supported, and he has Libra placement. So the South Node going, it's taking away that grace, especially from his Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Libra. So Jupiter was with Uranus and Taurus, and this is like a lot of money's at stake, and it's coming for the wealthy and surprising them to take them down. And then if we look at the transits on his natal chart, the lunar eclipse was conjunct his natal Uranus, which is the planet of surprise. So he was surprised, and it was a swift few searches. Pluto
wasn't there. He wasn't at home on either.
Doesn't mean he wasn't surprised, right?
That's true, I guess. But he had a vacation out of the country planned.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
was it a vacation or an escape?
Exactly. I don't know.
because I think they met him at the airport and were like, you stay here. And he was like, oh shit. Maybe he wasn't like, oh shit. Anyway, Pluto's also conjunct his natal Mars. So his natal Mars is either 29 degrees Capricorn or 0 degrees Aquarius. I think it's an Aquarius. That's really neither here nor there because Pluto's still within. It's at 1 degree Aquarius. So it's either out of sign conjunction or an in sign conjunction. It would also make sense to me that his Mars would be in Aquarius because Pluto's so newly in Aquarius that this would sort of like be building, right? And then finally, it's now that Pluto's in Aquarius, it's all coming to a head. It's visible. But yeah, Saturn's also on his north nodes. This is a fated punishment. The nodes being points of fate. Saturn again being punishment. And I feel like ego took him down. I think that he knew this was coming and he could have gotten out, but he was too hubristic and believed himself above the law. They were on his natal Sun and his natal Saturn for the 2 years prior to this. So from November 2021 through the eclipse, there was an eclipse in November that was also, or at the end of October, that was also on his natal Saturn. So punishment was coming. I think he could have gotten out, and I think he thought that he was bigger than the law.
Damn.
I just feel like he's got to be an Aries rising, just based on his childhood demeanor and like all of that going down during Aries season.
I mean, my little cousin who's nicknamed Puff, she's an Aries stellium. So just like you. Yeah, I believe you. I think Elisa's right. You heard it here first.
We'll see. We shall see. But this wasn't the first time that Diddy's faced legal issues. R&B singer Cassie, whose full name is Cassandra Ventura, filed a lawsuit in 2023 alleging that she was trafficked, raped, and beaten by Diddy on many occasions over the 10 years that they were dating / she was signed to his record label.
Yeah, she had signed in 2005 when she was just 19 and he was 37, but that did not stop them from dating. And her lawsuit, it's been a minute since this all went down, but her lawsuit was filed under the New York Adult Survivors Act, which gave a 1-year window for adult victims of sexual assault to come forward with any civil claims, regardless of the statute of limitations. So what was going on when she filed?
So this was November 16th, 2023 in New York, and this was on the day of a Mars Cazimi in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus. So that's a great day to file a lawsuit for sex crimes. Mars being the planet of swift action, Uranus being the planet of surprises, oppositions being aspects of lawsuits. Also a good time when you're willing to settle out of court for an exorbitant amount of money because of Taurus and Scorpio both being involved, but especially that Taurus. And Jupiter's also there in Taurus, which, I mean...
Other people's money. Get it. Pay out.
And the moon was in Capricorn, squaring Venus in Libra. So this is stern and serious, and it's advocating for women. So the moon in Capricorn isn't really... It's not here to sort of coddle. And when it's squaring Venus in Libra, there's pressure here. So she sort of might feel under pressure to really file this lawsuit. Maybe it was a swift lawsuit, a swift filing. I also looked at these transits compared to the day of the eclipse when they finally raided his house. And so I thought it was really interesting because the eclipse is conjunct Venus on the day of the Cassie case. So when Cassie filed her case, Saturn was at 0 degrees Pisces. And when they finally raided his houses, Mars was at 1 degrees Pisces. So Mars is conjunct where Saturn was when Cassie filed her case. So this is both of the malefics, and they're opposite his natal moon. So that's really challenging him, testing his emotions. It's also placing limits on his physical autonomy, saying he can't leave. And of course, the moon is the physical body. And then also Mercury in the spring when his houses were raided is conjunct the north node of when Cassie filed her cases. So it's just sort of like this big breaking news. It's like building on something that we've already talked about. And it's bringing all this more into this sort of eclipse story. And Uranus is exactly conjunct where Uranus was when Cassie filed her case, and it's now direct. So it's pushing forward. The surprise moves on.
Dang indeed. While Cassie's lawsuit was settled just 1 day after she filed for an undisclosed amount of money, which is actually pretty unusual. So it must have been a huge settlement in order for her to drop this case. But honestly, good for her. We want her to get paid. But what's also crazy is there's this psychic medium who blew up on TikTok who actually predicted when Cassie would come out with these allegations. based on connecting with Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Kim Porter.
Oh, yeah.
Who's dead. So the medium connected with Kim Porter, and basically she was talking about Cassie and said that this would basically happen in November of 2023, which is crazy. And also, Kim Porter died under very suspicious circumstances as well. Was pretty young and healthy, and she died of like random pneumonia.
Yeah, I think she went to like Ibiza or something with Diddy randomly, and when she came back, she was super sick. I listened to a podcast about it, but it was more woo-woo. So the person that was her friend thought that Diddy did something to her, like spiritually, like, okay, because he was very domineering with her. Because I think they had like at least one kid together or something.
3.
Oh, 3. So they had to be in each other's lives. But I think it was like whenever Kim was dating anyone, Diddy would just be blowing up her phone like nonstop. Like he was just fucking so annoying, but in a scary way.
It's very so sad, but also crazy about this like TikTok psychic. Her name's Sloan Bella or something if you want to look her up. But several other women have come forward since November of 2023 alleging that they were also sexually assaulted by Combs. And 2 of the women said they were teenagers at the time of the alleged assaults.
Yes, and currently Diddy has been in the headlines as this case proceeds. His legal team filed a motion to dismiss a number of claims against him. And then people in the raid case have also been summoned. So everybody that was on the court document, so like all the music execs, all of the people associated with Diddy, they've all been summoned. And there's even rumors that Ashton Kutcher, who I didn't even realize he was fucking friends with Diddy, he's expected to be subpoenaed too.
That's so fucked up. He has a foundation for child sex trafficking.
Yeah, yes. And it makes it crazier how he wrote that letter for
oh my god guy. Wow.
Yes,
like
who was that?
Danny Masterson?
It was like the guy,
Hyde.
Yes,
from that 70s show.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff I feel like that came out against
people also
Ashton
think
Kutcher,
that
they like,
well, his girlfriend died in like 1996 or before he was famous.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
They think that they think that they don't think they think that he killed her, but I think that they think that
allegedly,
something.
Let's not get sued.
No, I don't
allegedly.
I don't think that they.
Everything we're saying is alleged.
I've never even heard a rumor that he killed her. I've only heard that he knows more than what's told.
Allegedly.
But
the greatest accusation ever.
Wait, but what also I forgot to mention that was crazy about Kim Porter's death was that Corey Gamble, Kris Jenner's partner, was on the scene when she died, or like was there photographed at her house.
Okay,
the coroner was removing her body, and it's weird because his name isn't anywhere. Kris probably had it like scrubbed or whatever from the internet, but he's in photos. Like when there's a coroner at her house removing her body.
A lot
Corey
of people
Gamble
think that the Kardashians are a coven, that they do like occult witch shit. And that's why they're famous. And that they siphon energy. They siphon energy off of people. So
allegedly.
I don't know.
There's a lot to dig in here. If you want, go down some Reddit threads. There's a lot. Go on TikTok. But yeah, there's a lot of more woo-woo stuff going on with Diddy, and that, you know, obviously we don't feel that has not been like reported by any major media outlets.
Don't believe it all.
People allegedly, we don't believe it.
But Gina, what are your predictions for Diddy, this next upcoming year?
So I actually I'm echoing what I already said, which is that I sort of think that I don't think he's as powerful as he wants people to think he is. And I think that will be somehow revealed. Like, I think he's a middle manager. And I don't really know how that's going to come together. And I don't know, that's more of an impulse. And actually, I sort of predicted some of this also on an impulse, which is why I feel so entitled to predict also this other impulse. But other astrology related predictions are that his nodal return begins January 11th, 2025. So that's a big time for reckoning, 2025 and 2026. It's also going to be beginning the next major chapter in his life, which, probably jail or something, or some sort of restrictions, or he escapes it and he can't come back to America, extradition or whatever. Also, his progressed Pluto stations retrograde June 22nd, 2025. So this is changing his power and influence. It could definitely be related to lawsuits, announcements, or verdicts. And so his progressed Eris stations direct July 7th, 2025. And I included this because I don't know much about Eris. But what Eris pertains to a lot is like, if we're gendering it, a lot of times it's female jealousy, but otherwise it's a lot about inclusion and exclusion. So I think this is a good opportunity to sort of track how Eris functions, especially with like progressed stations. And my understanding, of course, so Eris hates exclusion. So maybe he'll be taken down by someone he excluded.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Maybe it could also just be when he gets excluded, I guess, from polite society. Although he's not like he's like in polite
there was
society.
a recent
He's above it.
thing on TikTok that blew up about him at a charity event getting ignored, like even by Flava Flav.
Interesting.
And it was really awkward.
Like recently?
Yeah, I think it was in March or something. I think it was before the raid, but it was almost like people had been hearing the rumors and did not want to be associated with him.
Yeah.
His progressed Saturn stations direct January 5th, 2030. And he'll be, 69 years old at that time? 68. So that could definitely be punishment, or could be something. It would probably be
death.
Yeah, it could be death. Especially because his progressed Saturn's opposite his natal Mercury. Mercury rules his moon. Moon is the physical body. And then progressed Mercury stations retrograde June 22nd, 2030. So just 5 years to the day after his progressed Pluto. And that could be something related to information coming out. So these are some nice long-term or, medium long-term predictions.
It's good. It's get juicy.
I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg here.
I want to know some occult stuff. I want it to be interesting. And not to, I
just I don't know. I feel like I just feel like there's got to be more occult shit, but like that the law enforcement does not want to report on that.
I want to know it. That's interesting.
I want to know.
I don't know if it's a cult. I just think he's like running weapons to gangs and doing tons of drugs, and it's just like crazy.
Yeah, that's probably more likely.
Allegedly, he's doing that.
He also allegedly killed Tupac.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly.
Can't forget that alleged.
You could learn about Tupac on our Patreon. We did an episode on him.
Yeah.
We did. And we vaguely talked about Diddy, so... But you have to go behind a paywall to hear our real thoughts. Well...
Rest in peace, Tupac.
Well...
Yeah, so he thought he couldn't be stopped. And now, guess what? He's going to be stopped.
Guess what?
Well, technically not. He's still like fucking around.
He's... Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know what he is.
I just think he could have gotten out and he didn't. And I think that's going to be the ultimate thing. Like he'll, for the rest of his life, he's going to be like, yeah, I could have left it and I didn't.
He just can't live without public recognition. Like, I don't think he's someone that can just live a life in hiding.
Yeah. I actually saw a taxi advertising the strip club they mentioned, the Booby Trap, where people would just wear a bad boy entertainment hat.
Oh, wow.
And the women would know that a freak on, what did I say? Freak off was ahead because Diddy was in
gross.
Dang.
Wait, also
scary.
That sort of observation, at least that he can't not be known, is such a good sort of, not evidence, what's the word? It's an argument for him being an Aries rising, because and my also argument that he has Mars in Aquarius, because that's someone who really wants to be known and will go against will sabotage themselves against their better.
I could see judgment. Mars ruling his chart, because a lot of stuff that happened to him happened when there was something going on with Mars.
Yeah.
Someone get us Diddy's birth time so we can know. Remains to be seen. I think we'll be hearing a lot about Diddy over the next 1 or 2 years. Then there'll probably be a lull. And then, bam, he either dies or we find out a ton more information, or both.
Or both.
Both is our prediction.
I think Saturn will be in Gemini at that time, so both. It will also then be, I guess, after his his second Saturn return. A lot's coming for him, It's only the beginning of what's to come.
A lot's coming for him.
Foreshadowing for
sure. Well, like we said, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon for $5 a month. You can get that extra chart about Diddy and Lil Rod. Could he be the one to take him down?
Yeah, he was excluded.
He was excluded. Like Dana said, someone who excluded him might be the one to topple his little empire. So we shall see. But with that, I'm Elise.
I'm Dana.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Allegedly Astrology.
Now get that voice for light. Night
we ain't going nowhere.
We're nowhere.
Go nowhere.
Go nowhere. But
we can't be stuck.
Do.
We bad.